Hi guys, welcome back. In this module, we're going to be creating this cluster ring. Very beautiful ring you can see here. Fairly straightforward process. So let's jump in and get started. First thing I want to do when creating a ring is start with our finger size. So again, I'm just going with a plain size L, which has a diameter of 16.1 millimeters. And again, I'm going to offset this 1.95. So that's going to finish up at 1.8 thick once we've trimmed back that 0.15 metal. So because it's a cluster, I'm going to be using an oval cluster. I'm going to import one of my gems from my pop-up menu. I'm just going to go for a round gem, that's fine. And I'm going to resize it using my box edit, as well as the gumball here. So I want an 8 by 6. So I'm just going to scale it up 6. So I've now got a 6mm round gem. And then if I increase the Y dimension to 8, you can see that's also going to spread out in the right axis. By doing it this way, the depth of the gem is going to be about right for an oval. So let me move that up roughly up into position somewhere around there. Now I also want a profile curve around it, so an oval shape. I'm going to use my oval tool here, snapping to the center. I can either type out 4, or I can snap to the top of the gem here, and then snap to the sides here. So that's my profile curve there. Again, move that up into position. Now I'm going to use 2mm gems to go around the outside. So again, I'm going to bring in a new round gem and just scale that up to 2mm. I'm roughly going to bring it up into position here. Now the profile curve I've got here, I want to offset this. And I want to use the through point command. So I'm just going to press T and then enter. And then I can dynamically choose where I want this to be offset. And I kind of wanted this to pass through, not quite halfway, but just a little bit less than halfway through our small round gem center. And then I can array these along this curve. So array curve. And now we can see that 14 gemstones actually looks pretty good. If we had something like 12, you can see we've got some gaps opening up there. If we have 16, then they're going to start overlapping. So 14 is pretty much what we want for this size gem. Okay, so we know how many gems we want to go around the center gem there and what size they need to be. Sometimes you might need to use smaller or larger gems. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you just kind of have to make the best with what you've given. But in this case, the 14 2mm gems works quite nicely running around the outside of an 8 by 6 center oval gem. With those gems laid out, I can now start to build up some support for them. I'm going to come to my front viewport and I'm going to grab the polyline tool here. I'm just going to start drawing out a profile shape. So somewhere around here, I'm going to bring that down maybe 1.1 millimeters. Bring that across, bring that up, bit of an angle. I've got my smart track on here, so as I hover over this point, you can see that it creates a little white dot and a white line, which is kind of snapping, and then I can close that up. So selecting that profile curve, looking at my properties, you can see it's closed. So I've got a nice closed curve there. Let me turn my points on. I'm just going to drag this out. So it's going to protrude a little bit on the outside of our center gem there. Okay. So now I can use my profile curve and I'm going to do a sweep one and use our newly created curve there. And so that's what we've got. That's where our gem is going to be sitting. So let me do another base for the round gems. I'm going to use a circle. I'll do it slightly different just so you can see a couple of different ways. Now I want this to be a little bit bigger. I don't want to have a gap between my gems. So these are 2mm gems. I want a 2.1mm surround. And you can see that if I array these, then we'll have a slight overlap there. I'm going to offset this. And I'm going to offset this maybe 0.7mm. Just so I've got a nice sized hole in the center. Now selecting both of those, I'm going to extrude, curve, 1mm. Then I'm also going to chamfer the edge. And it's the center edge there I want to chamfer. And I've just realized that my extrude has not capped or not extruded solid. So let's try that again. Extrude curve. I need this solid to equal yes. So 1mm. Then I can use my chamfer edge. And the distance from the center or the inside edge here to the outside edge, if you remember, was 0.7mm. So I'm going to make a chamfer distance of 0.5mm. And that's going to give me a small flat surface there. Okay, let's park this on a different layer. Same as this one here. Just to help make things look a little easier. I'm going to bring this up into position, and then with both of the parent gem and our new underbezel, I'm going to rotate these. I'm going to rotate it from this point here. I could also use my gumball if I wanted, and minus 15 degrees. And that's just going to put a slight angle on all of my outer gems there, and it's going to help sort of create a nicer look to the ring. Again, selecting our underbezel, let's array curve. Select the same curve, right click to complete that command. And you can see that we've got all of our underbezels here arrayed nicely around that curve. A good spacing between the gems here, they're not overlapping, so there's not going to be any chance of those breaking during the setting process. Next thing we need to think about is where our claws are going to go for our center gem. Normally I'd put it on the this point here. That's actually going to overlap this gem here a little bit. So I'm just going to move that up into this space here. So let's create that claw. I'm going to use a cylinder from the world origin, which is 0, and enter. This is going to be a 1mm radius. Actually, sorry, I need to make this a diameter. So 1mm diameter. And just bring that up until we've got a nice amount of length there. A slight angle on that. And then I'm going to rotate from the center. And kind of move that into position. So I'm looking for a nice little bite of the center gem into that claw. I also want this claw to overlap these two gems here a little bit, because those are going to sort of nip into that claw. That's what's going to hold them in place. I can also move my parent gem and underbezel in slightly just to increase that overlap there. I'm also going to make a slight adjustment to our underbezel for our center gem. I just want to move that down a touch. And you can see I've also got a step underneath here, so I can turn on my control points and just move that up slightly so it's a bit smoother there. Okay, with that in place, I'm going to use our quad mirror command. I'm going to select all of those claws and change the layer. And now we can start working on those small in-between claws. So again, let's go with a cylinder. Starting at the world origin. This one I'm going to make slightly smaller, maybe 0.9mm. Again, just bring it up, sort of 2 or 3 millimeters. Bring this up into position, give it a bit of an angle. Now the gems are angled at 15 degrees, so I'm going to give that the same angle. And just move this so we've got a bit of an overlap between those 2 gems there. And that's looking fine. I'm going to check my bottom and just make sure that this is up in position, so we don't have too much poking through the base here. That's looking pretty good. Change the layer. And now using the same profile curve, I'm going to array that small claw using this curve. So selecting that claw, array curve, selecting the curve, and we want 14, and that's the correct number there. Now these are all still dynamic, so we can move these and everything is updating. We do have an overlap here between our center claws for our center stone and then this claw here. So I can go and delete these 4, knowing that the center claw here is going to contain the 2 outer gems.